Welcome to Only Drews. It is the year of our Lord 2025. It is December. And I'm here to talk to you about Tempranillo. Couple things before we get going here. Thank you for being a wine club member. And if you're not a wine club member and you're scamming these from our free YouTube page and reading our free wine club write-ups, I want to thank you for being interested. And for pursuing wine knowledge. And I also want to invite you to become a wine club member. This month and this month only, December 2025, we are offering our wine club for $180 for 3 months. So that's a 20% discount off of our normal $75 a month. You're going to get 6 bottles of wine. We will ship those to you. If you want to give it as a gift for Christmas, I will gather the last 3 months of Wine Club, and we will ship those to your loved ones. I just really want to build this community and make the Satellite Wine Club bigger, so we can buy more wine, better wine, talk about more wine. It helps sustain the restaurant and the event space. Honestly, it helps sustain me. It gives me a lot of love and acknowledgement when people join our wine club, because it just makes me excited for people who really want to be a part of what we're doing. It's more of an opportunity to engage with you with our community events, like our wine tastings we've been doing on Tuesdays and Wednesdays at the factory. Engaging with you on Monday nights when you come in for your free drinks at Satellite, or with members across the country. We've got members in Chicago, in Phoenix. There are people we're shipping wine to all the time in New York, sometimes Florida, Georgia. Washington. Like, it means so much to me to be able to kind of engage with you on across interstate level and a national level. Of course, we do showcase like a lot of Santa Barbara wines, so I really love sharing those as well, as just wines in general. Because I've got a thought, I think about wine, and I have a lot to say about wine, and it means a lot to me to be able to share it. So anyways, all that is to say, go to satellitesb.com/club, CLUB. It is available just in December. And ideally, if you get in there, say, before like the 18th, 19th, 20th, if we're lucky, I will be able to ship those wines to get them to your family by Christmas. And then we would just get you rolling with a normal club starting in January, or if you're going to start, in this month or next month, it'll be starting in March or April for your first normal club. But anyways, it's a great way to join, really great way to engage with us. And I'm just so grateful for you who are members, and you who are giving memberships, and you who are joining. So, and if you're just joining to like check in, I love you too. Okay, this month we've got 2 really cool wines. It's a departure because we're not doing any wines from the U.S., nothing from California, Oregon, Washington, no wines from Michigan, no connection to Santa Barbara, actually. This is maybe the first wine club in 8.5 years where I just looked at the year and I looked at all my notes and I thought about what theme do I want to do, what do I want to talk about this year, and what it came down to was that I tasted these 2 wines and I thought about them the most through the year, or at least these last 3 or 4 months. I found that they had some of the best value in wine in these heavily tariffed times. I also found it kind of interesting that they are based on the same grape varietal from very nearby regions in a country that we don't buy a whole lot of wine from. The grape varietal Tempranillo, we don't buy very much wine that is made from Tempranillo. It doesn't really grow all that commonly, especially in California, although there are some great examples in our region. But these are 2 really incredible superstars from 2 regions that I have a lot of feelings about, both good and bad. And we are in Spain. We are having Tempranillo-based wines. From a young man and more of a middle-aged, later-aged man. The regions are Rioja and Ribera del Duero. And I guess I'll just kind of dive in. Tempranillo, first of all, is a noble grape. It's sort of like the, let's call it the Cabernet to Garnacha's Pinot Noir of Spain. Really important, can be called, I think, Touriga Nacional as well. Super, I may want to look that up. Don't quote me on that. I should have looked up all of my grape varietal facts before this, but it's important to know that it is a noble grape. It is often blended, especially in Rioja, with Garnacha. Grows alongside. It tends to be planted at higher altitudes than Garnacha. Tends to have more deep, richer base notes. Can definitely be aged for a longer time in the right growing conditions. Loves high altitude, loves to be grown in really tough soils. In terms of the plant hates it, the wines turn out great. These wines are really interesting. They're both from sort of like north central Spain. We're going to start with Challao from Rioja. Then we're going to go to Ribera del Duero, kind of like a lighter, more partial whole cluster, lighter winemaking style, to a deeper, more powerful expression from somewhere that's a little bit more harsh. I would first talk about Manu Michelini. He's Argentinian. Just met him recently. He is from the Valle de Uco. This wine, I'm so excited about these wines. So Manu is like 28, 29, 30. I'm not sure when his bio was written, and I don't want to text him and bother him in Spain right now because it's middle of the night. But he is from the Valle de Uco, which is in Mendoza, where you might have had a lot of Malbec from. The Valle de Uco is a high altitude area in Mendoza, Argentina. He comes from a wine growing family. He's born into wine. He is like under 30, but he's worked harvest for about 15 years in both hemispheres. So he's had more winemaking experience than most vignerons will have in their whole lives, especially people who come into it later in life. He's a natural. He's a super cool guy. He's friends with my friend Remy, who a lot of you might remember Remy from kind of the starting days of Satellite. Legendary Argentinian-American wine hero, mapologist. He stays with Remy when he visits New York, where Remy now lives. He is sick. He is cool. He has made wines like at some serious places like Bees, Simon Bees, or I guess Chisa Bees in Burgundy. Olivier Clap, Jean-Marc Rouleau, Clarice Ramonet. Super deeply experienced and has worked with like some incredible Northern Hemisphere and Southern Hemisphere producers. What's so cool about him is he basically like got this, kind of inspiration to go check out Rioja, place that is steeped in traditional winemaking, has incredible terroir. You've got the Baja where they grow a lot of Garnacha. They got the Alta, that's the mid-level, where there's a lot of mixed varietals. You get Viura, white grape, and then you get up into the high Alavesa, and it's rugged, and it's these degrading limestone mountains that are super important in terms of like the mineral composition of the space. It's all south facing, even though it's pretty high altitude. Like these vines grow between 600, 700 meters of altitude. You're in a rain shadow. You've got southern exposure, but it's generally kind of cool. And there is some, good rain as well. You're in northern Spain. Basque Country is basically just north of you. The Sierra Cantabria is kind of like what separates you from northern Spain. It's a big mountain range to the north. Anyways, what happens is Manu goes to Rioja, has a killer time, goes to Logroño, and like discovers this incredibly undervalued winemaking world there, wine growing world, and decides to set up shop. He's got 2 hectares. It's really small. It's like 5 acres. The word Challao, Dominio do Challao, is let me see here, a Warpe word from the Warpe language from the Uco, so it's like the indigenous South American group, and it just means a place where things grow. So he figured he'd bring some of that like Argentinian influence to Spain. It's sort of like reverse colonialization in a way, and I love that. That's cool. But anyways, it's really close to the town of Haro, where Lopez de Heredia is made, which is for me like the most classic, wonderful Rioja producer that kind of bridges like the more modern old style with the like old style. It's not like all about new oak. Like so much of New Rioja is like industrial wineries with tons and tons of oak and really over extracted grapes, giving you this like experience that's sort of like akin to the Napa nuclear arms race of just like how big can we make these Cabernet Sauvignons. Notable thing about Rioja is they've always used American oak, which is not common amongst European producers, but it gives this like dill taste in the wine that can be really interesting, especially ages really interesting. It becomes this like deeply layered, complex tobacco herb world that pairs up so beautifully with Tempranillo, which is such a great structural grape, but also kind of elegant. It's almost like more inherently elegant on its own than, say, Cabernet Sauvignon, which can have a little bit more of a rough edge, can be astringent. You can definitely make this wine astringent, but this ain't that. So what we find in this wine is like a lot of violets. I'm getting ahead of myself. Just real quick, let's just go through a couple things here. Okay, you're near the town of Haro. Lopez de Heredia is there. The Ebro River flows through and down to Logroño. It separates you from these mountains, and you just keep on getting higher and higher. So he's got these vineyards that are relatively, I guess, there's some that are young, there's some that are old. One was planted in 1945, but it's all on these like decomposing limestone mountains. So put yourself there. It's all scrub brush and like a lot of vineyards, to be honest. There's a shit ton of vineyards there. But this is going to be his, younger style, his Joven. I don't know if this is actually technically, it's a Vino de Pueblo. So it's like really just sort of like a low classification because this is his younger wines. This is the wine that like he's able to make at least affordable enough for us to get in the wine club. It's not a cheap wine by any means, but this is a crazy value wine. Some of his more exotic, like super small production wines literally are more expensive than any wines that I've ever brought into Satellite ever before. Per bottle, more expensive than any Magnum we've ever purchased. They're like priced higher than gold. And I think that that's great for him. But like, that's not the wine I'm interested in drinking. And honestly, when we had this tasting with Manu recently, like I'm a Vino de Pueblo boy. Like I really like wines that are enjoyable now. And these wines that we tasted are going to be amazing forever, and they will continue to age really elegantly. So will this in our lifetimes. Those ones are ones for your grandkids. But what's cool is he's making this range. This wine's $40 at Satellite, so $30 for wine club members if you want to pick up a case. It's $3.60 a case plus tax. Honestly, this is like a sick wine to drink all year. His wines go up to like where my cost is thousands of dollars ahead of what a case of this costs. And it's grown the exact same. It's all organically farmed. He's really, really minimalist in the winery, maximalist in the vineyard. And he's got great sites. So this is going to be younger vines. I think it's a 6-year-old and like a mix of some other things. It's primarily Tempranillo. You've got about 30-40% of Garnacha. And then like this whole blend of red and white local varietals from like older vineyards. And that'll be Tempranillo, Garnacha, Viura, probably, who knows, there might be some Mencia, there might be Caño. Talking old vines mixed together. And that sort of like is a vineyard he took on to allow him to make more wine. And for me, it also means that this wine's more low dog, more interesting, more deeply imbued with the spirit of this sort of like subsistence wine world amongst the Grand Cru vineyards of the greatest wines of Rioja. And that's like so cool. What is cool? I'm looking for this word here in my notes. But you're at the vineyards are all in the Alavesa, but when you're thinking about his wines, you want to think more about the slope, like the Côte, a French idea of a slope, where you get this really nice drainage profile. You get a lot more minerality on the surface. In this case, limestone, which is just going to give you purity. Super amazing that this area is the way it is. It's all south facing, so you get the most sun. It's crumbling limestone. It's pure. It's beautiful. There's not very much topsoil. And that's what's really cool. So these wines are made in 12th century caves, 40-50% whole cluster. I think this one's more 40. He does like very light pumping over to not overly extract the wine. Doesn't want to get a lot of the tannins out of the and astringency out of the stems. Pressed really lightly. They're aged really long, 22 to 23 months. And he uses big Foudre. And I think that this is actually made in Austrian, like big 550 liter casks. Yeah, and all farmed biodynamically too. All right, so Virna. This is going to be about half plus Tempranillo, but we're just going to get into it right now. Okay. I want to tell you more about how this wine is made, but first I'm going to tell you about what I'm experiencing. First of all, I'm getting like full tannin, not insane grippy, but like really nice with food and fats type of grip around my mouth. I get it on the front of my teeth. I get that dryness coming through structure, but it's silky in terms of the actual feeling on the tongue. So you get dryness, well, cat tongue, but like the liquid itself feels very silky on the palate, which is pretty typical of Tempranillo. It's this wonderful mouthfeel. Wine is like not heavy at all. It feels like really light and free in a way, but also with that like silk sort of seriousness to it. Violets, roses, floral, cherry, mashed up black cherry, and like all of those flowers and like a delicate woody potpourri. There is no new oak, not even close to this wine, which I love because I love experiencing the farming and the grapes and the terroir and not having any added components of flavor. So this wine's fermented in concrete, which is going to give it a little bit more texture. And already, like, I can feel that the grippiness of the tannins is already kind of disappearing. A lot of times, concrete, especially if it's rougher, will honestly give you a rougher kind of like more textural type of thing. Like wines that are made in ceramic feel like they have that like terracotta thing. Think about Georgian wines. Wines that are made in concrete tend to have that like more. Imagine running your hand against like the floor in here is concrete. And like that's kind of a little bit like the texture I get in the wine. And then you get this silky liquid sort of experience. Okay, so this is aged for a little bit shorter than the other wines. It gets 12 months plus 8 months in bottle. So large French barrels. The wine's sick. Getting back to the flavor profile and the style. I could smell this wine until I pass out. I can eat it with pretty much anything that goes on any menu. On the palate, I get this really lovely, it's not like Kir, but it's like tense cherry, a little caramelization, this wonderful kind of like sexy woody cigar box tobacco thing. It's not overwhelming. I would put this like up against some Great Barberas without being so like sort of rustic feeling like you get in Italy, and maybe a little bit less like pointedly acidic. This wine's just a little bit more chilled out and like so enjoyable to drink and to feel in the mouth. There's a little bit more flesh to it, but it's not heavy at all because it's like partial whole cluster, which is also not super, super common here. It's like such a lovely way to make Tempranillo feel both more elegant and leaner at the same time. Like, it's without making it feel like overly rich. This wine is sick. It is $40. It is $30 a bottle if you buy 12, and you should, because honestly, this is so good. Order it for me. It's 12.5% alcohol. It will age, but you should drink it now, and then you should drink it later. You should keep buying it, because Manu's amazing. He's 28, 29 years old. Sick. Real quick, I want to talk about where Ribera del Duero is in terms of Rioja. So, Rioja is like the high center of the plains of Spain, if you can imagine. There's like a rim of mountains along the north, maybe like 100, 150 miles to the coast. To the north, through the mountains. Maybe it's a little bit more. Maybe it's a little bit less. I'm a geographer who hasn't... I didn't get out the measuring tape. But the main thing is like, if you kind of track along this mountain ridge... that goes, like the one that literally he's farming on here. It runs like basically straight east-west across the top of Spain. And then it sort of turns down and runs, turns up and turns down. And it's like sort of defines like the plain of northern Spain. At least in this like sort of high center position. What's cool is you can follow that along, and then if you go maybe like 100 miles to the west and 150 miles south, you're going to end up in the Ribera del Duero. So if you pull out a map, it like is obviously further away from the mountains. It is more in the high center of the country. It might look a little bit like lower on a map in terms of altitude, but actually these vineyards are 200, 300, 400 feet or meters, so like 1,000 feet higher in some cases than those in the north in Rioja. But the whole left of the map is all wide open plains. So you get increasingly warm air coming across, drier air coming across, like rugged, windy, dusty air. Rains out on green Spain, think Portugal and like south of Santiago de Compostela. And then it moves across the country, and this wind is getting drier and drier and drier and going across the plains of Spain. And then you've got this hot, arid, dry area that's also kind of like perfect for farming because it's got deep alluvial soils that hold some water. There's some clay in the soils down deep, and it's totally different area. You lose the noble limestone type of vibe, and you get more of like this ancient river, Ribera del Duero, the Duero River, or the Douro if you're Portuguese. But in that area, you got this ancient alluvium, more granite, more deep layers of alluvium, which will tend to hold water at different layers, but also like sand. So the sand's just going to let water fall out. So it's hot, it's dry, it's high altitude, so it's a little bit, the heat is reduced, because every 100 meters up you go, you lose, say, 10 average degrees of Celsius in an area. So compared to if this was like suddenly dropped to sea level, it'd be 10 degrees hotter on average every day. That's just something that I learned as a geographer, but you cannot drop the middle of Spain down to sea level, so it's sort of irrelevant. But anyhow, pull up a map sometime. It's like all these cool canyons along the rivers here, really cut down deep. But at one point, this whole area was like covered kind of like a river valley of sorts. All right, I'm pulling my notes back up here. We're going to talk about Goyo Garcia and what he's doing there. So Goyo boy, Goyo, I'll grab another glass here. We'll use that one again in a minute. Goyo is an old farmer and winemaker who always made wine for other people, always grew wine for other people. His family, look at this bottle. It's so nice. Love, the wax is done so well on this bottle. He and his family has grown grapes here in Ribera del Duero for hundreds of years. They've always been vignerons, farmers, wine growers. Goyo, let's see. He's been working in this region since well before 1982 when the DO, or the Denominación de Origen, was founded in 82. So he's just like a part of the land here. I'm so excited to smell this wine. Literally centuries. His winery was dug out by the Romans before Christ. Like, the amount of deep, subsistent sort of production that's gone on here for literally thousands of years is nuts. And so it's also an area that you get like a lot of other, you could kind of maybe think of this as the Paso to Rioja's Napa. Does that make sense? Probably less expensive land, but also a different kind of even warmer climate that can be like produce some like aggressive and silly wines. It actually takes a really skilled winemaker to make something that's like truly special here. Hold that idea. The Paso to Rioja's Napa. So it's a 4th century limestone cellar that Goyo's in. I said there wasn't much limestone here. I lied. There is some limestone, but there's this alluvium layer, and there's like it gives you a lot of complexity, texture in your wines, a lot of minerality. Just like there's tension natively in these wines, but I guess in a lot of Ribera del Duero, there is limestone, and that actually helps with water retention for these vines to actually survive in otherwise like pretty plains of Spain, kind of hot, dry area. What is cool is he'd been making wines and growing wines for other people for a long time, and he and his wife, I think it was 2007, maybe afterwards, finally decided to start their own label as Goyo Garcia Viadero. All the wines are single vineyard focused. Everything is grown at least organically. He has 40 hectares, 10 of which he owns, farms all of the hectares himself. He lives in the town of Gumiel del Mercado. So that's where the 4th century limestone cellar was dug out. I was watching a video of, do yourself a favor and look this up. But one of his importers took this video. The Romans literally cut a tube that runs like along the stairs. You'd think it was a handrail, but actually they would run from the stone press basically through a trough into this funnel trough that goes down the stairs into the cellar where they would cellar the wines. Everything about this place is insanely deep and historic and beautiful. His fermentations are long and slow and cold because the cellar is like hundreds of feet deep. It is pure rock. It is hardcore, so sick. He doesn't need to stack barrels because he's got so much underground space. They're all just single barrels all along these beautiful hallways. Everything that he uses is old oak. He doesn't use any sulfur at all, at any point, not even at bottling. These wines are 0-0 to the maximum, no additions whatsoever. Holy smokes. He co-plants some red and white grape varietals. They say this is 100% Tempranillo. There's almost for sure white grapes blended into everything that he does, because he just has these vineyards that are natively combined, and he's a real old school local. He like understands that diversity is important in the vineyard. Transparency is the biggest thing here. He has 3 main vineyards that are the backbone of his estate. This will probably be primarily from one of the vineyards that he rents and farms organically. Just because this wine is Wait till you try it. You'll get it. For $41, this wine is like unbelievably high value. What is really cool is the vineyards here are 800 to 1,000 meters of altitude. Even though on a map you like look at the central part of Spain, you're like, that doesn't look very like interesting. It's this long plateau that builds up. So you get altitude, you get some rainfall, you get some cool air, you get wind like crazy because there's nothing to stop it. Super, super incredible wine grower who is literally cut from the stone of that place and embodies it. So there are 300 wineries in Ribera del Duero today. When it was 1982 and he was already, really established there were only 12 wineries. It mostly produces oaky Tempranillo. Think about it literally as the Paso to Rioja's Napa. So good. So he launched in 2003 doing only old vine parcels. Everything that he farms is basically going to be bush vines. So those are not planted on like a trellis system. They are planted as bushes, little trees in the ground, Albarello style, little trees. What that does is you plant them further away from each other. The vine is actually like a little bit more independent. It grows a little bit thicker of a base, a trunk, and it can go deeper in the soil. And that's really for hot, dry, desert, sunny areas. You'll see it a lot in Paso, for example. You'll see it a lot in the plains of Spain. Now, let's think here. What else we got for you? He grows some other grapes. He's got some Graciano, which is like another really intense, powerful grape varietal. I'd have to try this. He grows some white grapes like Albio and Malvasia. Palomino, which is awesome. Oh, mamma mia. Yeah, the vibe is high altitude, tense wines, old vines, powerful wines that are like completely unadulterated by modern winemaking techniques and additions. No sulfur in anything, which is insane because this wine will age for 1,000 years. No fucking problem. Like it's hard to describe other than to say like this wine has incredible structure. I'm going to tell you about it real quick. Higher acidity than this wine, more intensity, more of a feeling of like the mineral earth, a little bit riper fruit, a little bit fuller, but also the body is like a little bit lighter somehow. This is a 2021. It's 13.5% alcohol. And I want to just hit it again. Tannins are more rustic, rough, but this wine is bone freaking dry. There's no like glycerol or memory of glycerol in this wine. Because he ages these wines for a long time, just in barrels, whatever remains of the initial yeast is just slowly chomping away on any possible glycerol in the wine over time. And it leaves you with this like incredibly bone dry, bony frame to the wine. Like, it's not that there's no meat on these bones. It's that it's like this wonderful, complex smoked jerky. And it's sick. Like this wine is about representing a blood of this land. And it feels both incredibly clean and incredibly like just scooped up as like this homogeny of what it is to be in Ribera del Duero. It's dusty, it's powerful, it's sun-filled, it's got this darkness to it. There is more of a plummy, roasted quality to the fruit, whereas this had like this more elegant, more fresh-picked dew on the berry type of cherry type of vibe. This is straight up like pulled out of a fire or out of sweating in the heat type of like beautiful fruit, but like really almost on the verge of not desiccating, but like drying, and like think ripe, beautiful, richer fruit, without being heavy in any way. This wine is like actually kind of lighter bodied in a weird way, even though it has more alcohol, which gives body, feels lighter body than the Virna. It's really cool to think about the influence that this winery has in terms of like other world wineries. I'm just reading here that like Pierre Auvernois in Jura is a big influence here, and like that makes perfect sense. These wines are farmed immaculately and then left to ferment in a really, really cold, deep cellar for as long as it takes without any additions, and a really, really careful attention to keeping the wines in good shape. In this case, like letting them topping the barrels to prevent them from oxidizing, always adding wine as it evaporates out. God, I get this crazy black pepper. It's wild what a little bit of altitude difference, a little bit of soil difference, a little bit of distance in terms of like, you know, this is a little bit more up in the mountains, a little bit cooler, rainier type of vibe. Out in the open, dusty land with these little bush vines, like so hardcore. But yeah, it's interesting to think about this in the context of like Trousseau and Poulsard made and Pinot Noir made by Auvernois. Those wines are like also feel like they're almost carved from the old wood that like supports the cellar beams, but also have this beautiful freshness in them. And it's just amazing how much more spice box you get out of this wine while it's still in this wine here. These wines are made from the same grape varietal, obviously a little Garnacha and Viura here, but like there's definitely some mix in here too. And they both represent Spain really well. They both represent their respective regions really well. They show a connection between the two regions really well. But they're so completely different, but like made by people who have the same idea about quality in winemaking. No new oak, really intentional quality first approach. That's a big kid wine. I'm not having that with like salads and apps. Like I'm having that with my great uncle at the end of the night sharing a cigar. And this has all those features. They're just a little bit more fleshed. They're a little bit more fresh and like unroasted. Like you get this cigar box, spice box, like potpourri, and a little bit more fresh flowers. Whereas this, and I get some jerky. I get some like cured meat in there for sure. Man, this is like, you can smell the dust that comes off the berries when they harvest, and you can feel the ripeness of that fruit and like the sun-soaked quality of it and the intensity in the wine. It's wild. Amazing. Fleshier, more fluffy, but like feels more fresh. Really beautiful fresh fruit, great mineral texture. Definitely has like this bright, elegant quality to it, where it's also like fun and playful. Oh, this is awesome. And this just like is death metal. And it's so, I mean, it's like physical. And it takes you at the back of the throat. Neither of these wines are overly tannic. In fact, I'd say that like, they're perfect like daily drinking wines in terms of like they're not gonna, you don't have to have like butter and beef to like make this feel good. It feels so good to drink. But like it's just so, this is like blood, but like from a beautiful demon. It's so good. And I swear that these are the first glasses of wine that I've had today, or any alcohol for that matter. But I did feel like I should light some candles to talk about them. So anyways, that's kind of like what I feel about Tempranillo is like, you should know about it. You should think about Spanish wines. I don't always do it. I don't usually carry a lot of Spanish wines. I feel like I've talked for like hours about this. But yeah, I'm going to post this video. Join our wine club. Come out to the Wednesday night tastings. Drink Goyo Garcia. Drink Dominio del Challao. Drink satellite wines. Ask our team what they're into. Oh, that smells so good. That smells so good. These wines could not be further apart nor closer together. And that's what wine's all about. Really reflective of the people behind them and the place they come from and the grape varietal that makes them. And like none of it's confusing when you taste them side by side. And that's the theory behind the Satellite Wine Club is we're always trying to strip away variables and let you into a little bit of an understanding of like what is the relationship between two wines so you can understand wine better. And I want to thank you for tuning in. So I will be back in 1 month, and I am going to go drop these bottles off at Satellite because I'm going to drink the rest of this, but I should not drink the rest of both of them. That's the theme this month. Wines that you want to light candles and drink. Oh!